Hello, everyone. Welcome back to In Our Podcast with your hosts, Colin and Braden Cox. And today we're joined by a special guest, our good friend Brandon Keys. Some of you may know him also as Low Key. Has some music out there. We're excited to have him on. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing the divisional games, reacting to those, and then previewing championship weekend. Should be a big weekend in the NFL. Got the Chiefs versus the Bills, obviously, and then Eagles versus Commanders. Going to be some fun games, good football, and then winners go to the Super Bowl. So we're going to give you our thoughts, our opinions, and our predictions, and everything in between here in the yard. Um, but at first, I want to start with Brandon. You have an album coming out soon. Do you want to get into that a little bit? Just a little
Uh,
thoughts on there.
yeah, I always say I have an album coming out soon, but then it soon is like 5 months, so I can't sit here and say it. I do have a collab project that is being mastered currently. It is like done, but again, I can't sit here and say it's gonna come out. I have a full-time job now, so it's not as
Yeah,
easy to just like, sit back and grind for like a couple weeks and knock
yeah,
it out. But
that's
I
how it
appreciate you
goes.
guys having me on.
Yeah, no, excited to have you on. Thanks for coming on with us. But yeah, if you guys don't know, Brandon, Low Key, I think it's Low Dash Key, technically. And I'll drop his Spotify link in the description also. But yeah, check out some of his new music; it's pretty good. But yeah, let's get started into. You guys want to start with divisional games reaction to those
Yeah,
first?
for sure.
Okay, so I think the first game was Texans versus Chiefs.
Yeah.
Chiefs kind of took care of business for the most part. Wasn't really. I mean, Texans kept it close for a while, but the Chiefs, ended up pulling away in the fourth quarter. So I just Braden, give me your thoughts to that one real quick.
Yeah, I think this really just came down to experienced versus inexperienced. You can say home field advantage all you want. But largely throughout the game, it was like very competitive. I was in and out of watching it because I was just going through the airport and whatnot. But like from the Texan standpoint, like a pretty solid effort. The sacks on CJ Stroud really did them in. Um, but I don't even really have too much to say here because it went basically as I predicted. I know there was a lot of chatter about those phantom calls on Mahomes and the penalties and the refs. We can sit here and talk about all we want. But they've been to what, four straight Super Bowls or four in the past 5 years. They've won three rings. You can't deny the greatness, the dynasty that's going
Mm-hmm.
on here. So to
And I
sit
think,
here and say I'm surprised,
yeah,
can't. So
I was gonna say I think this is their seventh straight AFC Championship appearance, which is
which is just wild.
it is insane. Like that's pretty insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brandon, give me your thoughts to that game. I mean, I think Brandon
Um,
hit the nail on the head for the most part there, but
So I watched the first half, and honestly, this was the game I was least excited to watch,
yeah,
just because like you almost like know they're gonna like the Chiefs were gonna win.
right,
Like if no one was like, oh yeah, I think the Texans are really gonna run away with this one,
right.
even after beating the Chargers bad the week before. But I don't know, man. Like the Chiefs are just so unlikable to me, and obviously I'm a Bills fan, and we'll get into that. But
Obviously,
like the Chiefs like are just so unlikable, and I feel like they're unlikable to most. It's just like the way they like I maybe it's I think Patrick Mahomes is fun to watch, but he's just like it feels like he's a prima donna a little bit.
yeah,
Like he's an ultra competitor, don't get me wrong, but like dude,
yeah.
this
I
like
think
I
watching
think
the game
Mahomes too.
sometimes.
I think
Go ahead,
Mahomes
Brandon.
tunes in. I think Mahomes tunes into New York, so you might want to take it easy
Uh
on the
oh
chatter
no.
there. No, I'm messing.
No, like I respect him as an athlete. I just feel like he's never had like any adversity in his career. If you think about it, he started off going to the super like he was just started off being so good, right?
mhm,
Yeah,
And he's never had like any real adversity to overcome, so he's gotta feel like I feel like he feels privileged almost a little bit. Like all every other
yeah,
like
you could tell by
great
the way he
quarterback
acts
has
and his
had some
body
hardship.
language. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's a good point. I was gonna say like when we were watching Tom Brady's Patriots in what the 2010s, and we never. I'm sure it's different now, but I never really felt that hatred for Tom Brady. I don't know how you guys felt.
I felt
Like
it,
I
but
I
love
not
like
as
Tom.
bad as now.
yeah, like I
Yeah,
I always appreciated Tom's greatness. I was never like, oh, I hope this guy loses. Like I don't know. I just I think it's good for the sport though, because a lot of people don't like the Chiefs, and it makes more people tune in and then root against them. It's basically the Chiefs versus America.
Yeah.
Come every Kansas City Invitational is what they're calling it these days, the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get into more of the Chiefs when we preview the championship game. Let's move on to we'll just go in order. We'll start with the Commanders Lions game. Obviously, Lions are pretty heavy favorites to not only win the NFC but also win the Super Bowl. And then Commanders with the young Jaden Daniels, what a rookie season he's having. Go into Detroit and outplay the Lions, outplays McGough or Jared Goff. And then Dan Campbell, what a season they've had. What a turnaround he's been for the franchise as a whole. But at the end of the day, they lose and their season ends just like that. So kind of unfortunate for Lions. I think a lot of people were rooting for them, but I'm not too upset about the Commanders because they have a young, fun squad as well. And they're not really their Commanders haven't won anything in my lifetime, I don't think. So it was cool to see just good football all around there. And Jaden Daniels is a rookie, basically carrying his Commanders to the NFC Championship game. Braden, I'll start with you this time. Give me your thoughts on that one.
I think it's tough. Like you look at the Lions and you're like, oh, Jared Goff threw 3 interceptions. He played terrible. At the end of the day, most times when you score 31 points in a game, you're gonna win. It's tough to win like a game when like the entire time you feel like you have to score a touchdown. Go like every drive because especially when the Commanders got out to an early lead. I feel like it's almost like you're playing catch up, but you can't catch up because the defense can't stop anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also tough on the Lions. They have so many injuries on the defense. Not just Aiden Hutchinson, but just like everybody was injured.
Mm-hmm.
Like their entire secondary, besides like Brian Branch, was injured. But and then on the Commander side, I think honestly, I just think whatever they're doing in the coaching staff there, they just have Jaden Daniels playing with huge confidence. Like
Mm-hmm.
he truly believes in himself and his teammates believe in him. And I just think the leadership there is really good. I think Jaden makes very good decisions. He's very poised. He doesn't make many bad throws or and watching the games recently, I
Mm-hmm.
can't think of a time when he was really like, oh yeah, he threw out like a bad interception where it was
Uh,
like, he was trying to force it. Like he's wise above his age, especially in the NFL. And you know, if they don't win it this year, we're gonna get to that. Like their future is very bright. So
right.
that's all I really have to say about that.
Yeah. I mean, I think watching Jaden Daniels, he makes great throws and he does like kind of go above and beyond, but he doesn't really make mistakes either. It's great balance to have, and that's how you end up scoring 45 points in an NFC division game. He has a really good. I know the Lions defense was injured, but still a really good Lions scheme and defense, and he kind of just tore them right up. Scored 28 points in the second quarter. I think one of those was a pick six, but still. Um, yeah, I think Jaden Daniels has a bright future ahead, like you said, Brandon. Bray, give me your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm gonna echo a lot of what he said. I think it's a perfectly fair point to say, like, you know, you scored 31, like, you know, probably 9 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10, whatever you want to say, like scoring 31 usually gets the job done. But when you are facing a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball, it's not too surprising to me that the Commanders were able to, put up a ton of points. I don't know, man. It just like they were like almost 10-point favorites. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt like a lot of people believed in the Commanders, but like to see it actually unfold the way it did was just kind of shocking, right? And I don't know, like 45 points, it doesn't matter to me like how injured your secondary is or how injured the defense is. Like to put up 45 points in the National Football League
Mm-hmm.
is very difficult. And it looked pretty like simple to the Commanders, which again, banged up defense, but still 45 is 45. So um I have to give credit where credit's due. It sucks for the Lions. I feel bad for their fans. I'm a Packers fan, but I still feel bad for their fans because Campbell said last year when they were up huge on the 49ers and then they ended up blowing that like this may have been our one chance with how healthy we were and all things considered.
Mhm.
Um and it felt like that this year was like, man, they're getting another chance at it. And really, like, it seems like injuries got in the way. Yeah, like he said, you can talk about Jared Goff throwing 3 picks. That may have had an impact on the game, but like realistically, they gave up 45. Like, you're not winning that in most cases.
Mhm.
So tough for the team, tough for the fans. Am I really surprised though? Not as much as I thought I would have been 2 months ago.
Yeah, good point. I think.
And to the team that they lost to, that is more surprising to me, right? If you
Mhm.
would have said Philadelphia goes in there and beats them up, like, yeah, I could totally see that. If a team like Minnesota, when they were firing, went
Yeah.
in there and did that to them, I wouldn't be too surprised. But the Commanders, if you would have told me a month ago to do that, I would have been like, nah, like,
Legit,
you just
any
don't
other
have,
team in the playoffs that were in the
yeah,
playoffs, I would have been less surprised.
yeah. So, congrats to the Commanders. Let's see what they got this weekend. But yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts there.
Yeah. Quick question for both of you guys: Is it time for the Lions to shop for a QB?
No,
No,
No.
no.
Goff is good.
They are the best team in the NFC when fully healthy, right? You can make an argument for Philly, but their overall top to bottom, their defense is very good. They were just hurt. Jared Goff, there were points in the season where he looked unstoppable, right? And even they had games where he threw like 4 or 5 picks. I forget who that was against, but earlier this year
Texans.
he threw 4 or 5 picks in the games, and they still ended up winning. So it's like
Mhm.
they've got the playmakers. They've got two incredibly good running backs. They've got St. Brown. Like they're fine. But what Campbell said last year about, hey, this may have been our one chance. Now their offensive coordinator, I don't know, I forget who he went to, but their defensive
The
coordinator
Bears.
is,
Yeah.
yeah. So Ben Johnson went and is now the head coach of the Bears, and their defensive coordinator took the Jets job.
Right.
So that could be, I'm not saying that they won't be back next year, but last season they were all largely able to keep it together. Now it's kind of like now it's Campbell and they have to figure out the rest. So we'll see what happens there.
I
But
think I think Campbell will. I think they'll be okay,
yeah,
especially the
it's fair
talent they have.
for sure.
All right, let's move on to the Sunday games. These ones were a little more intense, I would say,
Yeah,
top to bottom, like first start to finish, I should say. We'll start with the Rams Eagles game. Rams started off 1-4, I think, this season, and then finished ten
something
and
like that.
seven. Snuck into the playoffs, and then did have to go into Philly, um, and kept it close. Made I think it came down to the last drive. They got in like to the 30, and then I think they just had a turnover on downs. Big stop by the Eagles there. And Saquon obviously two big touchdown runs. Jalen Hurts played a good game. Not much turnovers. Um, and then the Rams, kind of playing for a lot with everything going on in LA, kind of had a chip on the shoulder, a little extra motivation there. But the Eagles were able to hold them off. So Brandon, give me your thoughts on Eagles Rams. Any hot takeaways from that game there?
I feel like you can never like count out Sean McVay and Matt Stafford just
Yeah,
because
Mhm.
you just always feel like they have a chance, and
Right.
they have young good players on defense, and they obviously have Puka, and Kyron Williams is pretty solid. But you could just never count them out. But the thing is, like you can sit here and say like, oh, the Eagles, they have the most talented roster, and no one would blink an eye and doubt you. But every week I'm like, the Eagles haven't played their best game. The Eagles
Yeah.
haven't played their best game, but
Hmm.
maybe that is their best game.
Yeah. I
Maybe
I
this is
agree.
what they are. Like maybe they can't pass the ball, and Saquon Barkley plays superhero, and that's what their team is. Like, but it doesn't give me confidence. Like right now the Eagles I think are 6 point favorites against the Commanders. And I would sit here and be like, if the Commanders won, I'd be like, yeah, they look like the better team. Like they genuinely do. Like they look better, but
Hmm.
every game the Eagles just somehow win it. Like they just like against the Packers. Sorry, Braden. Like
Yeah.
they just made the Packers look. It's almost like teams look worse against the Eagles. but the
Yeah.
Eagles also don't look good. Like it's like just
Yeah.
bad
Yeah.
football
That's what
every
I
time.
think I said. That's what I was thinking after they beat the Packers in the first round. Like they did not look good by any means, but so I think that did raise a few questions for outside fans. But they ended up getting the job done again, and like they're kind of like the Chiefs in a way where they don't look great, but they find a way to win the game. Um,
Yeah.
so I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I
No,
had
you're
the same
good.
thought. Um, yeah, Brady, any thoughts too? I know you're kind of from the area.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I'm
what's it
I'm
like
about
there?
20, 25 minutes from the lake, so there's a lot of energy going into this weekend, obviously, with it being a division rival in the NFC Championship game. There's that element to it as well. But with the Rams Eagles, I have to agree with you guys. I wasn't, you know, and yeah, they played my Packers and he's hit the nail on the head. Like they just make teams they play look worse than how they really are, but they don't look like incredibly good either, right?
Mhm.
So it's interesting. But what I will say about this game that really surprised me is I felt like as soon as it started snowing, that Philly should have taken the game over, and that kind of concerns me if I'm an Eagles fan. We had a team from LA that the previous week had a home game against the Vikings, was moved to Arizona, so they had to travel, right? They beat up on the Vikings, right? And then they have to travel across the country. Snowy conditions. It was like probably like low 30s, or high 20s, and it starts snowing. It's basically a blizzard. And as soon as it happened, I was like, the Eagles are going to take this over because a team from LA playing in a dome, like how do they prepare for something like this? And I get it's playoffs and all games are close, but it just felt like that they should have taken it over. And it felt like that they had a couple chances to do it, um, and came up short. So I really did think at the end there that like the Rams were going to do it because as soon as they went into that hurry up offense and kind of forced Philadelphia's defense to stay on the field, they were picking them apart. And I was like, where was this the whole game? Right. They did end up falling short, but yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you guys that, to me, the leader of this offense is so clearly Saquon Barkley. It looked like Jalen Hurts banged up his knee, so he's definitely going to play Sunday, but like mobility wise, what's going to be his ability, how good is he going to be able to run and whatnot. So they might rely heavily on Saquon, and that can totally win you the game, right?
Mhm.
Because of who Saquon Barkley is. Um, but I don't know with the way that the Commanders have been playing, like that is not a matchup I would have wanted. If I'm Philadelphia right now, I would have preferred Detroit, right? With the way that they're playing, even if Detroit wins last week and it's close, like I would have still preferred to play Detroit if I'm Philadelphia because they seem like that they're kind of discombobulated. And I'm not just saying that because they lost. The Commanders are playing with house money and they putting up a lot of points and they're playing with the most confidence of any team in the league, right? So I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting matchup for sure. But I give credit to
Yeah.
Philly. They still get it done. They're gonna have another
Yeah.
home game this week. That's a huge advantage, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. We'll get more into the Eagles, obviously, when we preview
Yeah.
the championship game. All right. And then last but not least, I think this is probably the most anticipated game of the weekend, from this past weekend, I should say. Ravens, Bills, basically the two MVP candidates, going at it head to head in Buffalo. I think it was like not crazy amount of snow, but definitely snowing a little bit. Um, and did come down to the wire, kind of like as we all expected. The Bills were able to hold off the Ravens after the Ravens made it was pretty impressive comeback, especially away on the road. But the Ravens end up falling just short, and Brandon's Bills end up moving on to the AFC Championship game to play their favorites, the Chiefs. Um, but yeah, Brandon, I'll start with you. I'll let Brandon go second here. Ravens Bills, to me, again, like I said, probably the most anticipated. You got Lamar versus Josh Allen. Like, what more could you ask for Sunday night in Buffalo? And then I think this game really came down to is Ravens had one too many turnovers, and ended up falling up just short. I think Lamar had a pretty bad pick in the first or second quarter, and then I think they had a fumble in
Mark
the second
Andrews
or
fumbled. Yeah.
third. Yeah, and then Mark Andrews had a fumble in the fourth quarter as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's three turnovers right there. I don't think the Bills had any turnovers.
They
No,
did
they didn't.
not.
No, they didn't. So yeah, I think that's the game right there. Just the fact that Ravens couldn't take care of the ball. And then obviously you had the 2 point conversion come up just short. Mark Andrews couldn't come up with the catch. But yeah, I just think, I think that was the most fun game. I think the winner was, has a pretty good shot. Whoever won that game still has a very good shot beating the Chiefs in Kansas City. But yeah, let's react to that one real quick. Bray, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, despite it being like probably the biggest game of the weekend, I don't really have too much to say. I'm not really surprised how this game went. I was always leaning Bills. I know that Vegas said um, Baltimore by a few points, but I wasn't going to pick against the Bills with how good of a season they've had, especially at home, knowing that like this is going to be our best chance to ultimately get past Kansas City and whatnot. The Ravens didn't punt one time in this game, right? To put it into perspective, so the turnovers were definitely the difference for them. You know, yeah, people are gonna rip on Lamar and say, "Hey, you can't do it in the playoffs, whatever it may be." He's a regular season merchant, right? But Josh Allen really hasn't done it either, so it goes both ways, right? Um, the one
I
pick,
thought
yeah,
Lamar
yeah,
played. Lamar had that one bad pick, but other than that, like nothing
yeah,
else he could
yeah,
do. He
and
gave his chance a
yeah,
great chance to win. Gave his team a
yeah,
great chance to win. They couldn't
and
really make a
everyone
play.
was like going after Mark Andrews. Oh, he dropped that ball in the end zone, right? That would have tied it. The way I look at it is like there was still enough time that if Buffalo gets the ball back, they can go down the field and kick a field goal. I'm not saying it happens, but like there was more than enough time for them to be able to do something like that. So to me, I think just the better team this season won. I know that Baltimore beat them in the regular season pretty good, but that was like week 3 or 4 or 5 or something like that. As of late, the Bills have definitely been the better team, and Sunday night showed it. They seemed far more aggressive, and they were far less turnover prone, and that at the end of the day was the difference in the game. I know they only won by 2, but that's what matters in the end. So
Yeah, good points there, Bray. Brandon, what do you have? Anything to add to that?
I think I agree with Braden, but in a different way than what he is saying. Um, I think the Bills are a better team. I think that the Ravens have better players than the Bills do.
sure.
Uh, I think when you start like just the start of the game, like the way it started, like the Ravens received a kickoff, and I don't know, like the perception in the media was that the Bills were not going to win. Like if you watched any of there was a few people that
Yeah,
said the
a
Bills would
lot of
win,
people are
but
saying
most of
Ravens.
yeah, like oh, the Ravens are just. I feel like as a Bills fan, I'm obviously rooting for the Bills, but like being around football my entire life and playing, I just feel like the Bills are so together as a team right now. It's why they've been so successful this season. Like it seems like everybody is not about themselves. Like James Cook runs the ball to the one, Ray Davis scores a touchdown. There's no like, oh, I should be getting these. You know what I'm saying? Like they just want to win, and I feel like everyone on the team right now is like-minded. To the Ravens, they almost seemed a little tight. Like they came out of the game, even though they scored on the first drive. You know, Lamar, like in the back of his head, he sees that and he knows what the media conception of him is. So he gets out there, he makes these mistakes, but I feel like he settled in. He played a pretty good game. I just felt like they
Yeah.
were tight the whole game. They were, they started to loosen up at the end, and that's why they got closer. Because I truly think like if every player on the Ravens was stacked up against the Bills, the Ravens have better players like across the board. Like quarterback's a wash. They're both great, but like across the board, like maybe like everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
that's a good point.
I also
I
think
feel like both. Sorry, I just feel like both are
you're good.
really carried by their quarterback though, because you don't really have any like real true great playmakers on either side,
Mm,
offensively, except for
I
like
think
maybe
Derek.
Mark Andrews.
I think Derrick Henry
Yeah.
Yeah,
is a huge thing for Lamar. I think
yeah, but
that
they
the
they
Ravens.
Bills were able to neutralize Derrick Henry for the most part. I
Yeah,
would say.
I think the Ravens kind of I don't know what their game plan was, and obviously I'm not a coach, so I can't sit here and tell you what they should have done. But I think like Lamar didn't use his legs a lot in the run game and like read options. And I felt like they did that a lot the past couple weeks, and it's been like, damn, like it is unstoppable.
Right.
Because if you focus on Derrick Henry, then Lamar is like one on one with some linebacker, and typically he can win that matchup. And if not, then it's Derrick Henry, breaking arm tackles from people, and I don't know, but I know we got to move on. So
Um, yeah, I mean, I think I got everything. My thoughts all out on that one, but pretty much was a toss up from start to finish. Even going into the game, but Bills were ultimately able to pull away. And Brandon thinks it's big part to their togetherness and their just will to just win, to just simply win. So yeah, thanks for the analysis. All right, let's get to the fun part now. We're going to be previewing the championship games. I believe the NFC, the Commanders versus the Eagles is the 3 o'clock, and then
mhm.
the prime time is Bills versus Chiefs. So we'll start with the NFC Championship as we have 10 minutes to go here. So we'll do like 5 minutes for each one. So obviously Eagles, Commanders, division rivals. I think they split in the regular season. They went 1-1. The home team won both games, so the Eagles won at home, and the Commanders won them when they were home. But I don't know. I just think this one's. I think both games are really a toss up. It depends to me on if the Eagles could establish the run with Saquon, keep Jaden Daniels off the field, and get nice long drives. I think the Eagles will be able to win, but they can't let Jaden Daniels, kind of take over the game, kind of like the Lions kind of let him do. And I think you said the spread was like five for the Eagles.
It was six. I think
Six and a
it
half.
started it started at
Six and a
4.5.
half
It was
Eagles.
six. It was six last time. Probably I think last night it was six.
Yeah.
So it's the Eagles are the side for sharps at least
Yeah.
based on the way it's been.
It's this one. I don't know. Like I don't know who to choose. I generally don't like Jaden Daniels could go off for 400 yards again and pull off the upset win by 2 touchdowns. But the Eagles do have that experience over the Commanders, but the Eagles haven't looked great in any of their games. But like you said, they find ways to win. But I think I got to lean with the Eagles just because of the experience. I think they're going to find ways to keep Jaden Daniels off the field. They're going to probably establish a run soon, early in the game, and then just kind of not let Jaden Daniels do his thing like he did against the Lions. So I'm gonna roll with the Eagles, for the NFC Championship and going to the Super Bowl. Bray, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I largely agree with you that like this to me is like it really depends what team shows up for both of these guys. Like
Right.
I think Jalen Hurts, if he's gonna play, but if his knee is like truly going to, you know, be a hindrance like on Sunday, like they might have a problem, right? And it they're gonna be looking at Saquon even more as like, dude, you're gonna have to get us through this game so that Jalen Hurts can get better for those 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl. So like I'm so conflicted here too because like the Commanders feel like the better team, right?
Right. They looked like the better
And
team
they look like the better team. I can almost confidently say
from
they
the
are the
eye
better
test.
team
Yeah.
from the eye test. Yet Philadelphia's 6.5 point favorites. So it's messing with my head and I shouldn't let Vegas like kind of decide that for me, but I almost feel like I have to pick Philadelphia because they are at home. And 6.5 is no joke. I mean, the Chiefs are only two, and they've won three of the past four Super Bowls or something like that. So I don't know. Like maybe the 6.5 is just them saying like Washington's playing with house money, Philadelphia's experience, and I think that's a completely fair argument. Um, I don't know. Like you could ask me this tomorrow, and I might change my mind.
Yeah. I
But I
agree.
feel like you have to go with Philadelphia purely based on experience. And if they're able to keep Daniels off the field, have long sustained drives, like you said, yeah, it might be a Saquon Barkley heavy carry game. It might not be too exciting to watch, but I don't know. I feel like I trust them more despite them like
Yeah.
not being anything seemingly anything impressive.
Right.
But I'll pass it to low
Yeah.
key.
Bring him your.
Um, I think the Eagles. I think the Eagles are gonna win. I'll try to be quick here. I think the Eagles are gonna win, and I think we forget that Washington 2 weeks ago barely beat the Buccaneers. I think
Yeah.
they do look good and they do look, impressive. But in the beginning of the season, I think Brian Robinson was huge. He had a lot of big games. But toward the end of the season, if you look, he's had no rushing. Jaden Daniels has been all the rushing. Eagles defense is number one in the league. And I think, I also think that even though Jalen Hurts is injured, I think that if you forget the second game against the Commanders, Kenny Pickett was in the game and he had broken ribs. So, and that was a go either way game at the end there. Um, I also think that the defensive back situation is not the greatest in Washington, and I think their run comes to an end. I mean, I would probably bet the under. I don't know what it is, but I'd probably bet it. And I also think that
47 and a half.
yeah, I'd probably
47 and a half.
bet the under. I think it's gonna be like a 23 to they might cover, but I think the Eagles win for sure.
That's fair. So we're all picking Philadelphia. That honestly
Jaden
surprised me.
I thought Keys was gonna go with Commanders. Honestly,
I thought you both were gonna go Commanders.
Jaden Daniels, prove us wrong. Prove us wrong, Jaden.
Maybe
Honestly.
it's a little reverse psychology.
Yeah, here we go. All right. So yeah, that's our NFC predictions, NFC Championship predictions. Let's move on to the AFC. I think this is, everyone's really gonna be watching this one Sunday night. Chiefs, Bills. The Chiefs seem to always get it done in the playoffs. The Bills always win the regular season game. The Chiefs always get it done. I think Mahomes is 3-0 against Josh Allen in the playoffs now.
Yep.
So as much as I want the Bills to win, I can't see, like, I don't want to see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Like I said, like, we kind of all have a hatred for the Chiefs. I want to see Josh Allen. I said this in the beginning of the season, Brady. If it's not the Bengals, I want to see Josh Allen win a Super Bowl, right? But I just Chiefs just have their number, so I feel like I can't pick against them, and unfortunately, I think it's going to be another Eagles Chiefs rematch. Even though I'd rather see the other way around. I just I'm not saying the Bills can't win, but if history stays consistent, Chiefs are 3-0. They always seem to get it done and find a way to make the Super Bowl, especially against the Bills and Josh Allen. I'm going to roll with the Chiefs. Brandon, I'm going to pass it to you. Brandon, I'm going to pass it to you. So you get all your thoughts on this as a Bills fan.
I genuinely think that, it's going to be a go either way game. I could see 27-24 Chiefs, 27-24 Bills, and I would not be shocked either way. I think that the Bills are going to come out with that same energy they did against the Ravens. It's really just going to come down to, is Patrick going to make these turnovers like he did earlier in the season? Are the Bills going to be turnover free? Josh has kind of been not that he hasn't been himself, but he hasn't made these extraordinary plays since like the Lions week. You know what I'm saying? Like that got him like into the MVP, like front runner position. He's kind of just been, handing it off, taking the shots when he has them. If he has to go Superman, is he going to turn the ball over? I think it's all going to be on the turnovers. It's going to be a momentum game. I think the Bills are going to come out together as a team. And honestly, like it's going to be, it's probably leaning Chiefs as a Bills fan just because they have home field advantage. I feel like more of the pressure is on the Bills to win because they feel like this might be our year,
Right.
So I would probably lean Chiefs to win, but if it's a 2, I honestly would pick the 2. I think it's a pick'em game, to be honest.
This is a legacy game for Josh Allen. I don't think he wants to be defined as the guy that always lost to Mahomes. Bray, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes is 3-0 against Josh Allen in the playoffs and 1-4 against him in the regular season. So that tells a pretty decent story right there. Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a 2-point spread, which is basically Vegas saying the Chiefs are at home. I think if the Bills were at home, it'd probably be 1.5 to Buffalo. But I'm gonna have to ride with what I said at the beginning of the year, what I've been saying for 2 years now. What Collin and I have been saying for 2 years now is until I see it happen, I can't pick against them. Unfortunately, like Chiefs Eagles is like doomsday Super Bowl for me. Nothing would make me happier than a Commanders Bills Super Bowl. Even if it were like Bills Eagles, I would still be
Yeah.
like happy with that. But
Yeah, I agree.
until it happens,
Right.
and I think that this is the most likely chance that it happens, that a team surpasses the Chiefs. I think I can't pick against them. Unfortunately, I
Yeah.
can't. So I'm going to pick Kansas City. It's going to be close. I could see like a 24-22, or like you said, 27-24. If it goes either way, I'm not going to be surprised. It's going to be close. There's not going to be a blowout here. But until I see Josh Allen do it, which I think this is his best chance to do it, they seem like the better team. I have to still roll with the
Yeah.
Chiefs.
So sweeps all across the board for both games. Was not expecting
Reverse
that.
psychology.
Yeah, here we go. I think everyone wants the Bills Commander Super Bowl, but obviously can't count out the Chiefs or the Eagles. And that about wraps it up here in the yard. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Brandon, for coming on today. Hope you enjoyed being on and hope everyone enjoyed the show.
Thanks for having me.
And yeah, I hope you guys are all tuned into championship weekend and have a good one.
See you guys.
Go Bills.